Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to crack open the world of gemology and kind of get a sneak peek at how those sparkling diamonds and gemstones get their value.
We're going behind the scenes with the International Gemological Institute, or IGI India, as they're preparing to go public.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. You gave me this prospectus for their IPO, and I have to admit, it's a bit daunting. It's like packed with details about their business and financials.
Our mission today is to help you navigate this document and extract the key nuggets of knowledge. Think of us as your guides to understanding what IGI does their role in the global market and what this IPO could mean.
Sounds good. Let's dive in. First things first, what exactly does IGI India do? They're all about ensuring the quality of precious stones, right?
That's right. Think of them as the referees of the gem world. IGI India provides independent certification and grading for diamonds, gemstones, and jewelry.
So they're the ones making sure that what you're buying is actually what the seller claims it is.
Precisely. The document outlines their meticulous process. They grade everything from a diamond's clarity and cut to tracing the origin of colored stones.
Wait, they actually laser inscribe diamonds? I had no idea. What does that even look like?
It's a tiny inscription that acts as a permanent identification mark, linking the diamond to its unique IGI report, almost like a fingerprint. This provides extra assurance to buyers, especially with the rise of lab-grown diamonds, which we'll talk about more later.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. So how big of a player is IGI in the global market?
IGI is huge, the second largest independent certification player worldwide. They have labs all over India, even a school for gemologists, and they're looking to expand internationally.
Wow, that's impressive. The prospectus also shows some strong financial performance, right?
Yes, their financials look quite healthy with strong growth and profit margins. But as with any investment, there are risks involved.
Hold on, you keep mentioning risks. Can you break that down for me? What kind of risks are we talking about here?
Of course. The diamond and gemstone industry is what we call cyclical. That means its performance is tied to economic conditions. If the economy takes a downturn, demand for luxury goods like diamonds could drop, impacting IGI's business.
So my investment could potentially go up and down based on the overall economy?
Exactly. The document also highlights competition from other established players in the certification market.
So IGI isn't the only player in the game. Makes sense. But why are they going public in the first place? What's the big move?
IGI is aiming for significant expansion. They're planning to acquire two European companies, IGI Belgium and IGI Netherlands.
That's a pretty big power play. What's the strategy behind that?
It's all about consolidating their global position and tapping into new markets. The prospectus details how they plan to use the funds raised and even provide some financial projections, which are of course subject to market conditions.
So potentially good news for investors, but some uncertainty as well. I'm also really curious about this whole lab-grown diamond thing. It seems like a game changer. How is IGI adapting to that?
That's where it gets really interesting. Lab-grown diamonds are chemically identical to natural diamonds, but created in a lab. They're often more affordable, and some argue more ethical, which is appealing to a growing number of consumers.
So how does that impact IGI? Are they shifting their focus away from natural diamonds?
Not at all. They're actually embracing this shift by developing specialized grading reports for lab-grown diamonds. They outline the unique characteristics and clearly distinguish them from natural diamonds.
So they're not picking sides, they're just making sure everyone knows what they're getting.
I like that. It's about providing transparency and maintaining trust in a market where things can get a bit murky.
Okay, that makes sense. Now I want to get into the nitty-gritty of IGI's business model. What exactly makes them stand out in this competitive landscape?
One thing that really jumps out from the prospectus is their innovative approach. They've actually introduced in-factory laboratory setups, providing on-site certification services for lab-grown diamond growers.
Wait, so they're going straight to the source? That's clever.
It's a brilliant move that streamlines the process and caters to a rapidly growing segment of the industry. They're not just keeping up, they're shaping the future of the market.
Now that's what I call a deep dive. I'm seeing a clear pattern here. IGI seems to be adapting and innovating at every turn.
You're absolutely right. They're not afraid to embrace new technologies and trends, and that proactive approach is reflected in their financial performance as well.
Speaking of financials, the prospectus shows some pretty impressive numbers, right? They're clearly doing something right.
Absolutely. Their financials highlight consistent profitability and strong revenue growth, which makes their IPO particularly interesting for potential investors. But as we've discussed, it's vital to remember that any investment comes with risks.
You've definitely drilled that point home. Okay, so we've covered the basics of what IGI does, their position in the market, and even dipped our toes into this whole lab-grown diamond revolution. What else should we unpack from this document?
Let's dig into the details of their grading process, the heart of their business.
All right, let's get down to the microscopic level. From what I've skimmed, it seems like they use a combination of high-tech tools and expert judgment.
You hit the nail on the head. They analyze everything from clarity and cut to color and carat weight, and they've actually dedicated a significant portion of the prospectus to explaining the 4 C's of diamond grading.
The 4 C's. Refresh my memory. Is that like a diamond grading cheat sheet?
Exactly. It stands for carat color, clarity, and cut. And each factor plays a crucial role in determining a diamond's overall value.
So basically you're saying my tiny diamond ring doesn't have the best C's. Ouch.
Well, every diamond is unique. What's fascinating is how IGI uses specialized tools like microscopes and spectrometers to analyze these characteristics down to incredibly precise measurements.
Hold on, spectrometers. Those sound pretty high-tech. What do they even do?
They analyze how a diamond interacts with light, which helps determine its color and even its origin. It's incredible how much information they can extract from a single stone.
Wow. That's way more complex than I ever imagined. But I'm guessing this level of detail is what makes their certifications so valuable.
Precisely. And it's particularly crucial in today's market, where lab-grown diamonds are becoming more prevalent.
Right, because you need to be able to tell the difference between a lab-grown diamond and a natural one.
Exactly. IGI's reports clearly distinguish between the two. And they've even developed a system for grading the quality of lab-grown diamonds based on the 4 C's, just like natural diamonds.
So they're ensuring transparency and fairness for both natural and lab-grown diamonds. Interesting. So what else does this prospectus reveal about the world of gem certification?
Let's move on to the global scale of this industry and how IGI fits into that bigger picture.
All right, let's zoom out and see where IGI stands on the world stage.
The prospectus really highlights how interconnected this industry is. It talks about everything from mines to cutting and polishing centers spanning continents.
It's like a global treasure hunt. But how does IGI fit into all of that?
They play a crucial role in maintaining trust and standards across this vast network. Think of their certifications as passports for precious stones, verifying their authenticity and quality as they travel from one part of the world to another.
That's a great analogy. So they're not just grading diamonds, they're helping to regulate the entire global trade of gemstones.
Precisely. And that brings us back to why IGI is going public. They're aiming to become a truly global powerhouse in the industry.
Right. Their plan to acquire those European companies, IGI Belgium and IGI Netherlands. But that sounds risky, doesn't it? I mean, merging different companies, different cultures.
It definitely has its challenges. But the prospectus lays out their plan for integration. They emphasize a collaborative approach respecting each company's strengths and expertise.
So it's not just a hostile takeover, it's more like a strategic partnership.
Exactly. And they're hoping that by combining forces, they can streamline their operations, expand their service offerings, and ultimately reach more customers worldwide.
Makes sense. But let's get back to the investors for a minute. What are the potential red flags they should be aware of? We've talked about the cyclical nature of the industry, but what else?
The prospectus is quite transparent about the risks. One thing they highlight is competition. There are other well-established players in the certification market vying for that top spot.
So it's not a guaranteed win for IGI.
No investment is ever a guaranteed win. They'll need to continuously innovate and adapt to stay ahead of the curve. The document also mentions the risk of fraud within the industry, which I found really intriguing.
Ooh, fraud. Tell me more about that. I'm picturing elaborate heists with fake diamonds and secret agents.
Well, it's not quite a Hollywood movie, but it is a serious concern. The prospectus discusses how IGI uses advanced technology to detect things like synthetic diamonds or treatments that try to mask a stone's true quality.
So it's like a constant game of cat and mouse between the certifiers and the fraudsters.
Exactly. IGI invests heavily in research and development to stay one step ahead and protect the integrity of the certifications.
That's reassuring for investors, knowing they're taking proactive steps to combat fraud. Okay, so we've covered the risks. But what are some of the potential upsides for investors? Why should they be excited about IGI?
Well, besides their strong financial performance and strategic expansion plans, there's also the fact that they're tapping into a growing market. The demand for certification is increasing, especially in emerging economies like India and China, where more people are buying diamonds and gemstones.
So IGI is kind of riding that wave of economic growth and increasing demand for luxury goods.
Exactly. and they're positioning themselves as the go-to certification provider in these key markets. Plus, they're also leading the way in the certification of lab-grown diamonds, which is a whole new market with huge potential.
Right. They're not shying away from this new technology. They're embracing it. That's smart. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the business side of things, but can we go back to the GEM certification process for a minute? I'm really curious about those 4 C's you mentioned earlier. Can you break those down for me?
Absolutely. Remember, the 4 C's, carat, color, clarity, and cut, are the foundation of diamond grading.
Okay, so carat weight is pretty straightforward, right? Bigger is better, generally speaking.
Generally, yes. But it's not just about size. The prospectus actually shows how a diamond's color can drastically affect its value.
Really? So a smaller diamond with exceptional color could be worth more than a larger, less vibrant stone?
Precisely. The document gives specific examples of different color grades, from completely colorless, which is the rarest and most valuable, to diamonds with a slightly yellow tint.
Okay, color, I get. What about clarity? I know some diamonds have tiny flaws or inclusions. How does that factor in?
Clarity refers to the presence or absence of those internal imperfections or inclusions and external blemishes. The fewer inclusions, the higher the clarity grade and the more brilliant the diamond.
So a flawless diamond would be the holy grail.
Pretty much. Flawless diamonds are incredibly rare, making them extremely valuable. But even diamonds with minor inclusions can still be stunning. The prospectus even shows a diagram of a diamond with an I2 clarity grade.
I2, what does that mean?
That means the inclusions are easily visible under 10x magnification. It's a lower clarity grade, but it also means the diamond could be more affordable.
Okay. Carat, color, clarity. What's the last C?
Cut. And this one is often overlooked, but incredibly important.
How so?
The cut doesn't refer to the diamond's shape, but rather the precision with which it's been faceted. The cut determines how well a diamond reflects light, which directly impacts its sparkle and brilliance.
So a well-cut diamond can make a huge difference in how much it shines.
Absolutely. The prospectus actually has diagrams showing how different cut grades can affect a diamond's light performance. A poorly cut diamond can leak light, making it appear dull, even if it has great color and clarity.
Wow, I had no idea there was so much science behind a diamond sparkle. So IGI's experts are looking at all of these factors when they grade a diamond.
Exactly. They use their training expertise and those high-tech tools to assess each of the 4 C's and assign an overall grade. That grade then becomes part of the diamond's official IGI report, which is like its passport to the market.
It's incredible how much detail and precision goes into this process. I'm starting to understand why those IGI certifications are so valuable. They're not just pieces of paper, they're like tiny science reports.
That's a great way to put it. And it's this commitment to accuracy and transparency that has helped IGI build trust with both buyers and sellers in the gem and jewelry industry.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 C's, which is fascinating. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the broader industry trends the prospectus sheds light on. What stood out to you?
One thing that really caught my attention was the increasing demand for traceability and ethical sourcing. Consumers are becoming much more aware of where their diamonds come from and how they're mined.
You mean knowing whether a diamond is conflict-free and that the workers involved were treated fairly?
Precisely. People want to be sure that their sparkly purchases aren't contributing to any harm or exploitation.
And how is IGI addressing these concerns?
They're investing heavily in technologies and systems that allow them to track a diamond's journey from the mine to the market. It's like a digital passport for each stone, ensuring its origin is verified and that ethical practices were followed along the way.
So they're not just looking at the quality of the stone, they're also looking at the ethical implications of its journey. I like that. It seems like they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve and address consumer concerns.
You're absolutely right. And they're not just reacting to trends, they're actively shaping the industry by setting new standards for ethical sourcing.
Okay, so traceability and ethical sourcing are key trends. What else is happening in the industry? I remember you mentioning something about the growing popularity of lab-grown diamonds earlier.
Yes. Lab-grown diamonds are fascinating on multiple levels. On the one hand, they present a potential disruption to the traditional diamond market, but on the other hand, they open up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm still trying to wrap my head around how lab-grown diamonds fit into the bigger picture.
Well, lab-grown diamonds are chemically identical to natural diamonds. The only difference is their origin. They're created in controlled laboratory environments, which can make them more affordable and potentially more environmentally friendly than mined diamonds.
So does that mean they're less valuable than natural diamonds?
That's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
The value of any diamond, whether natural or lab-grown, is still determined by the 4 C's. Carat Color Clarity and Cut IGI applies the same rigorous grading standards to both types of diamonds.
So basically, a beautiful, well-cut, lab-grown diamond could still be quite valuable.
Absolutely. And as the technology for creating lab-grown diamonds continues to improve, we're likely to see even more remarkable stones entering the market.
Wow. It sounds like the future of diamonds is sparkling with possibilities. So IGI is playing a key role in navigating this new landscape.
They are. By developing specific grading standards for lab-grown diamonds, they're ensuring transparency and clarity for buyers. They're also helping to legitimize lab-grown diamonds as a viable and ethical option in the market.
It's fascinating how they're embracing this shift rather than resisting it. It shows real foresight.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point the prospectus highlights: the importance of trust in the gemstone industry.
That's something we've touched on before, but why is it so crucial, especially now with all these changes happening?
Think about it. When you're buying a diamond, especially a valuable one, you're placing a lot of trust in the seller and in the certification that comes with it. You need to know that what you're getting is authentic and accurately graded.
Right. You don't want to be tricked into buying a fake or overpriced stone.
Exactly. And that's where IGI comes in. They act as an independent third party, verifying the quality and authenticity of gemstones, building that crucial trust between buyers and sellers.
So they're like the guardians of integrity in an industry where reputation is everything.
Precisely. And their commitment to transparency, ethical sourcing, and rigorous grading standards further strengthens that foundation of trust.
This deep dive is really opening my eyes to the complexities of the gem and jewelry industry. It's way more than just sparkles and glamour. Okay, so we've talked about IGI's role in building trust and their commitment to innovation, but let's get back to the nitty-gritty of this IPO. What are the potential risks for investors considering jumping on board?
We've already discussed some of the risks, like the cyclical nature of the industry and competition. But let's dig a little deeper into those factors.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the potential downsides. What's the worst-case scenario here?
Well, one of the primary concerns is the volatility of the diamond and gemstone market. As we've discussed, demand for these luxury goods can be heavily influenced by economic conditions and consumer sentiment.
So if there's a global recession or even just a dip in the economy, people might cut back on their diamond purchases.
Exactly. And that could directly impact IGI's financial performance, potentially leading to lower revenues and profits.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the competition? How big of a threat are the other players in the certification market?
Competition is definitely a factor to consider. There are other well-established certification providers out there, some with even longer histories than IGI. They'll need to fight to maintain and grow their market share.
So it's not a guaranteed win for IGI just because they're going public.
No investment is ever a guaranteed win. Investors need to be aware that IGI will need to constantly innovate and differentiate themselves to stay ahead of the competition.
So what could they do to set themselves apart? What are their strengths?
Well, one of their biggest strengths is their global presence. They already have labs and offices in multiple countries, and their acquisition of those European companies will further solidify their reach.
So they're not just a regional player, they're becoming a truly global force.
Exactly. And that global presence gives them access to a wider range of customers and markets, which can help to mitigate the risks associated with any one particular region's economic performance.
That's a good point. Diversification is always a good strategy. Anything else that makes them stand out?
Another major strength is their commitment to technology and innovation. They've been early adopters of advanced techniques like laser inscription, and they're leading the way in developing grading standards for lab-grown diamonds.
Right. They're not afraid to embrace new technologies and adapt to changing consumer demands. That's got to count for something.
Absolutely. And they've also built a strong reputation for quality and integrity. Their rigorous grading standards and commitment to ethical sourcing have earned them the trust of both retailers and consumers.
That trust factor is huge, especially in the world of luxury goods, where reputation is everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks, the economic volatility, the competition, and the challenges of global expansion. But we've also highlighted IGI's strengths, their global presence, their commitment to innovation, and their reputation for quality and ethics.
It's all about weighing those factors and deciding whether the potential rewards outweigh the risks. And that's where the prospectus comes in. It's a treasure trove of information, providing detailed financials, risk assessments, and management's perspective on their strategy and outlook.
You keep saying prospectus. For those of us who aren't financial experts, can you explain exactly what that is and why it's so important?
Of course, a prospectus is essentially a legal document that companies are required to file when they're going public. It's like a company's resume, outlining their history, their business model, their financials, and their plans for the future.
So it's like a deep dive into the company's inner workings.
Exactly. It's designed to give potential investors a comprehensive understanding of the company and the opportunity they're considering investing in.
Okay, that makes sense. So if I'm thinking about investing in IGI, I should carefully read the prospectus and maybe even consult with a financial advisor to help me understand all the details.
That's excellent advice. It's never a good idea to invest in something you don't fully understand. The prospectus is a valuable resource, but it can be quite dense and technical. A financial advisor can help you interpret the information and make an informed decision based on your individual circumstances and risk tolerance.
That's super helpful. It sounds like investing in an IPO is a lot more complicated than just picking a stock and hoping for the best.
It definitely requires careful consideration and a thorough understanding of the company and the market they operate in.
Okay, so we've covered the prospectus and the importance of doing your homework before investing, but let's step back for a minute and talk about the bigger picture. What does IGI's journey, their upcoming IPO, tell us about the state of the gem and jewelry industry as a whole?
That's a great question. I think it reflects a broader trend towards transparency and accountability in the industry. Consumers are demanding more information about the origin and ethical sourcing of their diamonds and gemstones.
Right. People want to be sure that their purchases aren't contributing to conflict or environmental damage.
Exactly. And IGI is responding to that demand by investing in technologies and systems that enhance traceability and promote ethical practices. They're also leading the way in the certification of lab-grown diamonds, which is a testament to their willingness to embrace innovation and adapt to changing consumer preferences.
It seems like they're really trying to position themselves as a leader in this new era of conscious consumerism.
They are. And their upcoming IPO could further amplify their impact on the industry. As a publicly traded company, they'll be subject to even greater scrutiny and accountability, which could push the entire industry towards higher ethical standards.
So their influence could extend far beyond just their own business practices.
Absolutely. They have the potential to be a catalyst for positive change, inspiring other companies to follow their lead in promoting transparency, sustainability, and ethical sourcing.
That's a powerful thought. It sounds like IGI is not just a company, it's a force for good in the industry. Okay, so we've talked about IGI's impact on the industry as a whole, but let's get back to the investor perspective. What are some key things they should be looking for when evaluating this IPO?
One of the most important things to consider is IGI's growth potential. Do they have a solid plan for expanding their business and increasing their market share?
Right. It's not just about where they are now, it's about where they're headed. What does their future look like?
Exactly. Investors will want to look for evidence that IGI is capable of adapting to changing market conditions, innovating their services, and staying ahead of the competition.
So they need to be forward-thinking and adaptable.
Absolutely. They also need to have a strong management team with a proven track record of success. Investors will want to feel confident that the people leading the company have the skills and experience to navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead.
So leadership is crucial. What about their financials? What are some key indicators that investors should be looking for?
Well, the prospectus will provide detailed financial statements, so it's important to carefully review those and look for signs of healthy growth and profitability.
Are there any specific metrics they should be paying attention to?
Some key metrics to focus on include revenue growth, profit margins, and return on equity.
Okay, so those are the numbers that will tell the story of their financial health and performance.
Precisely. Investors will also want to assess IGI's debt levels. A high debt load can increase financial risk, so it's important to look for a manageable debt-to-equity ratio.
So a little bit of debt is okay, but too much could be a red flag.
Exactly. And finally, investors should consider the overall market conditions. Is the gem and jewelry industry thriving? Are there any economic or geopolitical factors that could impact IGI's business?
So it's not just about the company itself, it's about the broader context in which they operate.
Exactly. It's always important to look at the big picture when making investment decisions.
This is a lot to take in. It sounds like investing in an IPO requires a lot of research and analysis.
It definitely does, but it can also be a very rewarding experience. Investing in a company that's going public allows you to become part of their growth story and potentially share in their success.
Okay, so it's not for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to do their homework, it could be a lucrative opportunity.
Exactly. And remember, the prospectus is your best friend when it comes to making an informed decision.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from IGI's business model to their financial performance to the broader trends shaping the gem and jewelry industry. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier about IGI not meeting a certain regulatory requirement for going public, something about having too many assets in cash.
Yes. That's an interesting point, and it highlights the importance of understanding the nuances of financial regulations. Basically, IGI India has a significant portion of its assets in cash and other liquid holdings.
Which, to my non-financial mind, sounds like a good thing. I mean, it suggests they're financially stable, right?
It does.
Mm.
However, Indian regulations stipulate that companies going public shouldn't have more than 50% of their net tangible assets in monetary form.
Okay, so too much cash can actually be a problem when it comes to going public. That's counterintuitive.
It can be, depending on the specific regulations in place. But the prospectus explains that IGI India is going public under a specific regulation that allows for this exception.
So it's like a loophole.
You can think of it that way. It's a common practice for companies in similar situations. And the fact that IGI openly addresses this in the prospectus demonstrates their commitment to clear communication with potential investors.
Transparency is always a good sign. So even though they're not technically meeting that specific requirement, they're still operating within the bounds of the law and being upfront about it.
Exactly. It's not a cause for concern, but it does highlight the importance of carefully reading and understanding all the details in the prospectus.
Okay, lesson learned. Don't just skim the headlines. Dive into the fine print.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. What are some of the key insights that have stood out to you?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that the gem and jewelry industry is going through a period of significant transformation. Consumer demand for transparency and ethical sourcing is driving innovation and forcing companies to adapt their practices.
That's a great observation. And IGI is at the forefront of this transformation, embracing new technologies, promoting ethical sourcing, and even leading the way in the certification of lab-grown diamonds.
It's also fascinating to see how much science and expertise goes into grading and certifying gemstones. I had no idea there was so much detail involved in determining a diamond's value.
It's a meticulous process that combines cutting-edge technology with a trained eye of experienced gemologists. And it's this commitment to accuracy and transparency that helps to build trust and confidence in the market.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but there's still one more piece of the puzzle to explore. IGI's history and their journey to becoming a global player in the gem certification industry. Let's dive into that in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, let's rewind the clock a bit and trace IGI's path to becoming this global player. What were their humble beginnings?
IGI India actually started as a private limited company back in 1999. It's fascinating to see how they've grown from like a relatively small operation to a global powerhouse in the gem certification world. So what's the secret sauce? How did they manage such impressive growth?
Their journey is really a combination of strategic acquisitions and organic expansion. They started by establishing a network of labs across India, then gradually ventured into international markets, setting up offices and forging partnerships around the world.
And now they're taking a big leap with this acquisition of those two European companies, right?
Exactly. It's a clear signal of their ambition to become a truly global leader in the industry. But their success isn't just about expansion, it's also about innovation.
Right. We've talked about how they've been early adopters of new technologies like laser inscription and how they're leading the way in certifying lab-grown diamonds. What else have they done to kind of shake things up in the industry?
One notable example is their establishment of the IGI School of Gemology.
A school for gemologists. Tell me more about that.
It's really a testament to their commitment to education and raising industry standards. They're training a new generation of gemologists, equipping them with the knowledge and skills to ensure quality and ethical practices throughout the supply chain.
So they're not just focusing on their own business, they're investing in the future of the entire industry. That's impressive.
It is. And it also creates a ripple effect. By training more gemologists, they're contributing to a more knowledgeable and discerning market, which ultimately benefits everyone.
Right. More informed buyers, more responsible sellers, everyone wins. So it sounds like IGI's journey has been marked by a combination of strategic growth, technological innovation, and a real commitment to education.
Exactly. And all of these factors have contributed to their current position as a leading player in the gem certification industry. But their story isn't over yet. This IPO marks a new chapter, and it'll be interesting to see where they go from here.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the ethical implications of lab-grown diamonds versus natural diamonds. It's a topic that's been swirling in my mind throughout this whole deep dive.
It's a fascinating debate, and one that's only going to become more relevant as lab-grown diamonds gain popularity.
So, what are some of the key ethical considerations? Is one type of diamond inherently better than the other?
It's not about one being better or worse. Both natural and lab-grown diamonds have their own set of ethical considerations. With natural diamonds, the focus is often on ensuring they're conflict-free and that mining practices are environmentally responsible and socially just.
Right. We've talked about the importance of ethical sourcing and the steps IGI is taking to ensure the diamonds they certify meet those standards. But what about lab-grown diamonds? What are the ethical concerns there?
Lab-grown diamonds don't carry the same risks of conflict or environmental damage associated with mining. However, there are still concerns about transparency in the manufacturing process and ensuring that workers are treated fairly.
So it's about holding all players in the industry, whether they're dealing with natural or lab-grown diamonds, to the same high ethical standards.
Exactly. And that's where organizations like IGI play a vital role. Their certifications can help consumers make informed choices, knowing that the diamonds they're buying, regardless of their origin, have been ethically sourced and responsibly produced.
That's a reassuring thought. It sounds like the key takeaway here is that informed choices are the most ethical choices.
Absolutely. The more we know about the origin, the production process, and the ethical implications of our purchases, the better equipped we are to make responsible decisions.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything there is to know about IGI India and their upcoming IPO. From their humble beginnings to their global aspirations, their commitment to innovation and ethical practices, we've really taken a deep dive into this fascinating company.
We've explored the intricacies of gem certification, delved into the complexities of the global diamond and gemstone trade, and even touched upon the ethical considerations that are shaping the future of the industry.
This deep dive has given our listeners a comprehensive understanding of what IGI does, how they operate, and why their story is so relevant in today's market.
If you're considering investing in IGI India, remember, knowledge is power. Carefully review the prospectus, weigh the potential risks and rewards, and consult with a financial advisor to make an informed decision that aligns with your investment goals.
And even if you're not an investor, we hope this deep dive has given you a newfound appreciation for the intricate world of gem certification and the importance of transparency and ethical sourcing in the gem and jewelry industry.
It's a world where science meets art, where tradition intersects with innovation, and where the sparkle of a gemstone reflects a complex journey from mine to market.
And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought to ponder. As technology continues to blur the lines between natural and lab-grown diamonds, how will our perception of value and authenticity evolve? What will the future of sparkle hold?
It's a question that will continue to spark debate and drive innovation in the years to come. And that's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.